Hi everyone, this is Radull Live. Thanks for joining us. Let me send shout outs to those of you who've already tuned in before I get into today's conversation, which is about women power. Okoti Suleiman Mutuli, Butere Nawakilisha, Moses Njakwe Maina Nimefika. Let me see. Xavier Gital Masharia, Inside. Salimia Watu Wathika Masharia. Christopher Mutoti Shivute, Pop. Live from Qatar. Moses Njakwe Maina says, Inside. Florence Radull, tuned in nice and early. My sister is watching from Bondo. Guys, it's time to tune in. And if you've already tuned in, please share the link so we can learn more about motorsport in Kenya. Yeah, it's my first motorsport show and I'm embarrassed. But allow me to introduce to you Tuta Mionki. Hi Tuta, how are you doing?
I'm very well, how are you?
At least I'm fine. I got your name right.
Yes.
And people call you Tatu.
Tatu, Tete.
They put the vowels and they feel like putting them.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you for joining us. You're the first motorsport person I'm having on this show, which is shame on me, given that in a month or so we have such a huge international event happening on our soil, but at least I've got round to it. But Tuta, first and foremost, how did you get into rallying of all sports?
Okay, thanks for having me. I joined, I think most of us who grew up during my time watched the WRC as kids. It was an Easter event.
Easter Safari.
Easter Safari,
yes. Did you even have the name Easter? I didn't even have the name Easter. Safari Rally.
Not really, yeah. But it was synonymous, yes. And of course it was around my birthday. So for me it was a 3-in-1.
When's your birthday?
April 21st. So
happy belated.
Yeah, thank you. So we watched that as kids. With time, I think when we lost the WRC status in 2002, the interest sort of went down. But I also went to school and focused on school. But later in life, around I think 2007, I started following it as a fan, and a couple of friends and I decided that the best way to see the country and enjoy the sport was to follow the cars into, normally we have 8 events in a season, so we would travel to Kisumu, Eldoret, Mombasa, all over the country as a fan. And I wondered, okay, those guys look like they're having fun, why not me? So I was introduced to the Abdul Sidi Rally Academy. Abdul Sidi used to be Patrick Njiro. I think everybody knows Patrick Njiro's co-driver. So as a way of giving back to the sport, he started an academy.
The rally drivers to know in Kenya,
Patrick Njiro, Shekhar Mehta, Joginder Singh, those were the guys back then.
When I was young. It's taken me back to high school.
Yeah. So Abdul teaches for free, just as a way of giving back to the sport. So we went into the class, quite a number of people, around 2010 and 11. That's when I got into the sport. And he introduced me to the first driver as a co-driver, Victor Okundi. We were the first guys in the country to drive a Toyota Vitz as a rally car. So
a Vitz?
Yes.
As a rally car?
Yes. And now
someone please tell Shafi Weru he has no respect for those cars.
So it was well
and
built.
then you fast?
Not as fast as like Subaru and Evolution, but as a 2-wheel drive car, was comfortable and for beginners. He was a co-driver before, had switched seats, and I was a new co-driver, so I learned quite a bit from him. From that was early 2012, we finished third in our class in our first event, and of course very excited we got in our Vitz class in the 2-wheel category, and we got the meritorious award. I'll never forget that. It was some cash. I think that's the only cash I've won in the sport since that time. So, yeah.
At least you got cash. Most sports they don't even get cash.
Yes. So, the rest, as I say, is history. Been doing it since 2012 to date.
So what made you think I can do it professionally? Because it's one thing to be a good driver. I consider myself, touch wood, a good driver, but I say I want to be good enough to take on those corners and to take on the men, essentially.
Yes. I loved fast cars, Subarus, and back then I would do stupid things.
Subaru noisemakers.
Well, I wasn't that bad, but yes, I would do stupid things like time myself from Westlands to South B. Such stupid things that I don't do anymore.
That's before you started competing?
That's before I started competing. But then when I got into rallying, I realized that rallying is done in a safe environment. It's a car that has a roll cage. You have a 6-point belt. If the car rolls, you won't move, basically, and that's why in my about 4 or 5 rolls. You basically walk out of it. So I stopped doing the stupid
You
things
rolled
to enjoy.
5 times.
Yeah, thereabouts. So
She's talking so casually, you know, we rolled 5 times.
yeah, but it's a very safe environment.
Mhm,
You're in a
mhm.
safe environment in terms of the tracks. All the cars are headed in one direction. It's not like your normal roads. You're putting everybody else at risk.
Mhm.
So it's a fun event, and I felt like, I mean, I'll just see the drivers at the end and think this must be exciting, you know.
So exciting that I need to
That
do
I
it.
need to try it.
No, me, it was so exciting that I'd go to Kona Baridi, have my cold beer,
Oh,
and
yeah.
enjoy the cars as they
Yeah.
speed by. That was the extent of my support for it. Tell us what a co-driver does, because my dad used to call us all co-drivers, but that was more because we used to tell him what to do and he gets angry.
That's exactly
running-
what a co-driver does. Tells the
Really?
driver what to do, and sometimes they get angry, but that's our work. Basically, during an event, we have what you call recce, like a day where you go out to the route that has been designated by the organizers, and you take notes, identify where all the obstacles are and the distances in between. So that's what you call back to the driver on the day of the event. We call them pace notes. So he's basically what we call deaf, the blind, so he's listening to you. So he's basically blind and just listens to you. If you tell him in 100 meters there's a hairpin corner, that's what he'll do. If you call it right instead of left, you're in trouble because he'll take the wrong side.
So basically, the day before the event,
Yes.
you both go together
We go together
on the course,
on the course.
that you're going to do the next day. And then you literally write down 100 meters straight road,
Yes. For
pothole,
you can
corner.
you're doing notes for about maybe on a normal rally about 150 kilometers of competitive sections. Like for bigger events here at CWRC, you can do anything close to 300 kilometers of those notes. And it's small things like 20 meters, 30 meters, there's a ditch, 50 meters, there's a rock, so keep left or keep right, there's a jump, what kind of jump? Is it a medium jump? Is it a max jump? So the driver knows how to take that kind of jump when you call it.
Yani, there's
So
a
when you see the
science.
cars
There's a science to
flying.
it.
Yes, it's because we took a
Wow.
jump at a certain speed, and that's why you see all those beautiful photos of cars in the air.
I guess the danger is those of us who are just laymen who've learned at glory, 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 thinking we can do the same thing.
There's a bit of danger in that, and a lot of spectators who come to watch the events, you'll find that they try to pull the same stunts in their normal road cars or normal roads, so endangering everybody else. So we try to educate as well when we're rallying.
Let me read a few comments and then we'll get back to the actual cars that you drive.
Okay.
Raima Jaka, tuned in from Kingston, Jamaica, which is just down the road. These are just my cheeky viewers. Lumidi Luvuga, hi Toots.
Ah, yeah.
That's your
My
friend.
yes.
That's your nickname, Toots.
That's my Arsenal friend.
Ronald Okoth, following live and direct. He says, great to see our women dominating different sports. Tuta is a champion par excellence. She has shaped up the way and continues to inspire the next generation of
Thank you.
drivers. That's nice. Hey, Xavier Gital Masharia, you know how my Swahili is. He's written a long post in Kiswahili, but he's ended with, I'm proud of her. So, hey, Masharia, stop teasing me here. Hilda Chepto, tuned in. She's a sports reporter at Ibru. She should take you on her show as well. Women supporting women. Roger Zobondo, locked from Kericho. Now, what type of car do you drive currently?
By current road car or the
No,
rally car?
no,
Rally
rally
car.
car,
We are in
rally
a
car.
Mitsubishi Evolution 10 R4. R4 is a class. There are groups and classes. So we are still not the fastest. There are WRC cars which are specifically for teams, factory teams, and those cars will be seen here in June, end of June, because all those fast drivers are coming to the country. Then we have R5s. Right now in the country, those are the fastest cars. And you go down to the R4s, Group Ns, down to the two-wheel drive cars. So we are almost there.
So when you're racing, you're in different categories. Not
Yes.
everyone is in one race.
Yes. A lot of, I think, of it depends on your budget. So a two-wheel drive car, like I mentioned, the Vitz is mostly an entry-level car. You use normal fuel, maybe V-Power. Then the Evos and the Subarus will mostly use avgas, aviation gas. Then you have racing fuel that the R5s will use. Of course, the budget determines what kind of car you drive.
And so which level are you at?
The R4s.
Which
just
is
close
the
to the
second level,
yes.
kind of. So right now you navigate for a male driver.
Yes.
There are women in the sport who are an all-women team. Are there some?
Unfortunately, at the moment, we don't have all-female teams. We've had that in the past. When I joined the sport, we were about 18 women. And with time, the numbers have gone down. Right now, we're about 3 down. Yeah. I think mostly, I don't know, I don't want to blame the economy, but I guess that's what it is. Then when we talk about it amongst ourselves, most women say that when you have this kind of budget and you go home and you're telling your husband or your partner, they're like, no, priority. But a man will get out there with that budget and decide to race. So, yeah.
So unless you have your
part
own
of the
money, you're in
problem.
trouble.
Yes.
You're at the mercy.
And over time, we've lost also sponsors who made the sport a bit cheaper. So really, it's you and your pocket and what you can afford.
But I guess that it's one of the challenges for women in sport generally, as in, especially the minute you get married, the priority has to change. Isn't that something that frustrates you? I mean, how do you get around? How have you got around that?
I've seen a lot of very fast, we had, I don't know if you'd remember Michelle Van Tongeren and Safina Khan, a very fast all-women team. And according to them, they stopped racing when they started their families. But a good example is a friend of mine from Zambia. She's still racing. She has a 6-month-old baby and she did their last event. So I think it depends, but she races with her husband. So I guess, yeah. Bonding. But I guess it depends on what you choose to do. It's still possible to raise a family and race.
How can women, because if it is a sport women can get into, like when in their late teens or early 20s, hopefully they're responsible enough to follow safety measures. You're still single, you can still get in the game, but then I guess there's a challenge of finances.
That's the biggest challenge at the moment, but we are trying to, as women in motorsport, come together and see how we can, as a group, raise just awareness of what kind of marketing we can give your product. It's either a billboard on Waiakwe or a moving billboard across 8 counties in the country. So the car is what we call a moving billboard. Right now we have young girls in karting and what we call autocross, which is for ages 6 to about 16. So we are trying to ensure that those girls transition into rallying. We have Maxine Wahome, who's 22, started with motocross, a very fast bike rider, and she's getting now support to get into rallying, and hopefully we hope to see her in the WRC, and I believe it to be an all-female team. So.
Actually, when somebody saw my poster, they mentioned Maxine, and then somebody said, but she does motocross, not
She's
rally.
Transitioning now.
So she is transitioning.
Yes.
There's a comment here from Elias Makori from Nation. He says, well done, Tuta Mionki. You're a huge inspiration to lady drivers. Hope to see you in the WRC Safari Rally cockpits.
Thank you.
Is that a plan? What does it mean for you that rally's coming? You know, us as fans, we're like, oh, there's an international event. But you as somebody who's inside the sport.
It's so huge that I get an opportunity to race with the drivers that I watch on TV, because the whole WRC calendar is broadcasted, and that's who we look up to.
It's an international event.
It's an international event that will be on the same track, same days, same service park. Just having the WRC back, I think, is very huge for the country, not just for motorsport. I think sport as a whole, when you get an international event, and just generally, economically for the country. All hotels in Naivasha, if people are planning to go and spectate, are fully booked right now. So I think it's extremely huge to have it back.
I don't know if people understand the magnitude of having the World Rally Championship. How can you make them understand? Because it's like having a tennis Grand Slam.
Yes, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like having the World Cup in Kenya. It's, you know, it's
FIFA World Cup.
Okay,
at least we have the roads. At least we have the roads.
It's so huge. It's having any international event in the country. Sebastian Ogier or Tanak, Thierry, all those guys will be here. We watch them on TV in awe and what they do with the cars, because probably our fastest driver will be given like 10 minutes on the same section. That's how fast they are. But their cars are also specifically made by their factories for that purpose. But having those guys in the country is extremely huge.
What opportunities do you think we need to take that we're not taking?
From when the WRC left the country in 2002, what it did during that period when it was in Kenya is develop engineers, mechanics. We have such great mechanics who learned from the World Rally teams, and we have such good drivers. Ian Duncan, for example, I think in the current role is the only driver to have ever won the World Rally Championship, an event, the Safari. We had such great drivers, Shekameta, Joginda, but that has really gone down. When they left with the skills, the technical skills. They left with the fans. Our fan base has really dwindled, so over time. But once this comes back, we start getting that back. The technical skills, the cars, because those guys would come and dump their cars here, and those are the cars that people race. Hopefully they do that. I don't think they do that anymore. It's also expensive for them now. But that technical skill, that the mechanics that we have now from back in the day, is something that people the country will really benefit from. Then the economic bit of it, I'm sure the port is already, tourism opportunities. The port is busy. They've already started transporting their equipment. Hotel business is, like if Naivasha is fully booked, Nakuru almost fully booked. There are people who will stay in Nairobi because we probably don't have enough accommodation. That's huge for our economy.
And given what COVID has done to the whole world economy, or the Kenyan tourism economy.
And it's not just industry. For us, because the motorsport fan base, like Uganda, has a huge. When we have an event in Kenya, Africa Rally Championship, they send like 10 buses of fans to come and watch. So we have drivers coming from Uganda, Zambia, Tanzania. So it's good for Africa.
Yani, it's bigger for our neighbors than it is for.
I think everything
Do
is
we appreciate
Uganda.
It? We don't appreciate it. I think we take for granted that we can host a rally.
I think a section might, but for people who are involved in the sport, we've been talking about it now for over 2 years, because it was supposed to come back last year. Because of COVID, then that didn't happen. So for us, it's you sleep and turn and think WRC, so it's extremely huge. I think people will start appreciating it. We have it for 3 years. So if you don't appreciate it now, we have an opportunity to run it again in the next 2 years. So I believe with time, then you'll see more people, more drivers coming back, more cars coming back. We have over 100 cars, but only 30 in a good weekend race. So all those cars are seated somewhere because people can't afford to race. But I guess with this, then the interest comes back. The sponsors come back because that's the big, I think, what has affected the sport the most.
Yeah, I want us to go into a break. Let me just read some comments before I do. Min Blessing, that's my friend. She watches from Abu Dhabi. She says, Tuta Mionki is a unique name. Wow. Actually, I saw somebody asking, what does your name mean? Does it have a meaning?
Well, I'm told that Tuta is mafuta kidogo, just a bit of mafuta. And Mionki is like fire. So Mionki is, it's fire. So
it's fire?
Yeah.
So that's fire oil. So you were destined to be a rally driver because there's oil. Okay, now I'm forcing things. I hope people Safaricom airtime. I hope they're chonjo. I'm posting it right now. Get your fingers ready. Okay, they've gone. I do that twice a show, 1,000 bob of airtime. Guys, we're going to go into a short break. When we come back, I want us to talk a bit about any support you're getting from the government as drivers, if any. And I know you have salams you need to send, and then you have to speak to young girls who are watching and saying, you know what, I want to be like Tuta Mionki when I grow up, and what path can I take? So all that is coming up in about 60 seconds. Don't go anywhere.
Yakari Shirini Safari.
Welcome back. You're watching Radull Live. I'm here with the Tuta Mionki. I don't want to mix those vowels. Tatu, tuta, titi. Hey, see, you've just seen the English Premier League fixtures there, I know. And no, we're not going to talk about Arsenal. Not on this show, guys. I need some peace in the Middle East, you know. Who's Arsenal playing this weekend, by the way? I'm trying to check. Do I even care? We're playing for nothing. You're telling me before the show you're an Arsenal fan.
Manu.
You're a Manu fan. Oh, I wish I knew I wouldn't have opened the door for you. But we're starting to win games against Chelsea with nothing when it doesn't matter.
When it's too late.
We're moving a whooping 9th to 9th.
You're building up for next season as usual. So
anyway, to get back into rallying, Tuta is a co-driver, otherwise known as a navigator, otherwise the boss in the cockpit. You're the boss because you have to tell the driver what to do. And before we continue, I know you have salams you have to send out.
Oh yeah.
From Meru with love.
From Meru with love, but salams to my Legends football group, specifically the Arsenal guys. Kimeu, MB, all you guys, Lillian. Then my rally soccer fan group. We have a rally soccer group. Soccer. Yes.
Okay.
Rally guys who are also soccer fans. Uncle Ken, I'm sure you specifically asked me to send salams, so I've done that. Yes.
Is Uncle Ken a Luya by any chance?
Yes. So to, and my sisters who are huge support, so thank you.
Do you play any other sport? Because I noticed with most women in sport, they actually play more than one sport.
I did. Played hockey in high school and played basketball in college. Then went into a lull because I was so used to team sports. Then once you leave that setting, you don't know almost what to do with yourself. So
once you, and I want to talk about this a bit. You mentioned that you had to stop playing some focusing on sport because of school, and that's what we're all told. We're told you have to go to school, you have to get a real job, and if you want to play sport, it becomes a side hustle, which is probably what stunts Kenya in our sport development.
We've learned from childhood that education is the key to life. Or
the only key.
Yeah, the only key. Yeah. So unfortunately, that's what we've learned growing up. Go to school, forget about anything else on the side, and once you're done with school, you can get into the other things with your money because your parents won't support those other things that you want to do. Although I think times are changing, maybe with our generation being the parents now, they appreciate sport a bit more, and with the soccer academies and, parents, I know a guy who, rally driver who homeschooled the daughter so that she can play tennis.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and with all these tournaments across the world, that's the only thing that, let me mention him, Leo could do, to help the daughter get into that level of professional tennis. So I think we are beginning to understand it, but it still doesn't pay. So
it still doesn't pay, and what you just mentioned is if the parents are not the ones vested in it and the ones funding it, then you can't do it.
Yes, you can't do it.
Because all our biggest swimmers, we have, what's this lady's name? The one who's just qualified to go for the Olympics.
Muteti.
Emily Muteti, If the parents are not the ones pushing that sport and funding it, then you can't do it. What support in rallying do we get from the government in terms of development of drivers and navigators?
I believe almost none, but I'm not saying the government is not doing anything. The government has fought, and this is lobbying for more than 5 years to bring back the WRC to Kenya. The government and the federation and Phineas Kimathi, the chairman, it has been serious lobbying to basically get the FIA to agree to bring the WRC back to Africa because we don't have a round in Africa. So they're funding the Safari Rally. Whether it trickles down to the driver.
I was going to say you're such a diplomat because, yes, thank you, you brought us the WRC back, but what have you done to make sure that Kenyan drivers will participate in WRC and make an impact? Because unfortunately, we are starting here instead of starting here because we should be developing and training the drivers.
Exactly, that's what we need to do, but it's currently not happening. At the beginning of we used to have training rallies which were cheaper. Basically, the essence of the training rallies was to get the younger people to come and rally cheaper, because it's expensive. If you're going to drive just a standard two-wheel drive car, for every event you probably need about 800,000, you know.
Wow.
That's when you have a car.
That doesn't include the car.
That doesn't include the car. Okay. So maybe being conservative about 500,000, but it's expensive to get into this sport. So it's from your pocket, and if you don't have big pockets or sponsors, and because that's the other way to go. We've lost huge sponsors over the years, is probably to try and get them back. You almost can't afford it. I know countries like Uganda have, again, clubman rallies, and every driver has to start from the bottom in Uganda. And winning that clubman championship is as big as winning the national championship in Uganda. So if we get back to that point where you win a clubman championship that costs you maybe a third or a quarter of what it costs, what we call the big boys, then I think we'll be able to develop the sport. As women in motorsport, we are trying to do that, because we are trying to make sure that the young girls from karting, which is cheaper than, not very cheap, but cheaper than rallying and autocross, yes, can transition to rallying. And right now, I think we have two girls in our radar. Maxine, I'm calling her a girl, but she's in her 20s. But Maxine's father is uncle, a former rally driver, so the interest is already there. Then we have Kiana, who's in karting and now has moved to autocross. She's just 7. And
7 years old?
7 years old. So we want to see that we get enough, like with sponsorship for them, to enable them to continue rallying, and then recruit more girls. We want to do that for everybody, but we'll selfishly start with the women, because the numbers have gone down. And hopefully the WRC brings enough or creates enough interest from the corporates for them to come back and sponsor, so that our licenses move from 20,000 to get a license to rally to maybe something like 5,000. Entry fees, like for WRC, is 50,000.
So you're already excluding half the country. That's the sad part, because it's like a sport for the rich.
It shouldn't be, because I believe there are talented people out there, but how do we tap into that talent? And that's what we want to try and do with the women in motorsport. Can we get a cheap sponsored karting, a karting Saturday, sponsored for, even for example, a children's home? Like there's a track in Narok, get the home in Narok and take them out and start identifying that talent. But
the talent, because I know like golf, and I've had so many golf discussions over the years, and what golf has done is they've taken the caddies.
Yes.
And I went for, I think it was in December, I went to present some awards to one of the local tournaments, and most of the golfers who won any awards were former caddies.
Caddies, yes.
So they came in as workers, learnt the trade, and then because they're good enough, they're trained. But I guess you need to have enough tutors who want to help those who can't afford to be in the sport but have a talent.
We have to, I think we have to do that. Otherwise, when I retire, I don't know when, then maybe somebody like Lynette, who's the other consistent lady, and Suzanne, then who do we have, you know? Then, like you're talking about caddies, but some of the fastest drivers actually are mechanics. And those guys know their cars inside out. And when they've been given an opportunity, unfortunately, I probably heard of Babashiro Ben Mushemi. Ben Mushemi developed talent. If he identified talent, he'd tell you, he had cars. Come to my workshop and get a car. I'll sponsor you for this rally. He did a media rally, just gave media guys cars, drive, you know. If we got more Ben Mushemis, I believe we'd be able to develop more talent, yeah.
Because clearly we have matatu drivers with talent.
They just need the right environment.
They need the structure. They now need the structure. There's a question here from Sesmo Wanjala. He says, can a rally driver specialize in motocross? Does it go the other way around as well?
We have, it goes both ways. What I've noticed is with people like Maxine, I think that the biggest problem with getting into rallying is fear for most people. I've never been on a bike, not a boda, because I'm scared.
You're afraid of bodas?
Yes.
I'm afraid of bodas in Nairobi. I can take them in shags.
I've never been on a motorbike. But a car has the roll cage, the body, but on a boda you are the body, you know, of the car. So people like Maxine, Karan Patel, who's one of our top drivers, started with motocross. So when they come from there, I think they're
fearless.
They're fearless. Their corners make sense from the air and from whichever angle. So yeah.
There's a question here from Xavier Gital Masharia. He says, ask Toots what... Danny is already using your nickname. Ask Toots what car she would prefer, Subaru WRX or the Evolution?
I've been in both. So right now I'll say the Evolution. I think it's an easier car to drive, easier to handle, especially when it comes to the corners. Okay.
There are a few people here who... Ochiweda says... okay, women empowerment. Nashipe says, let me see, there's some women who want to come and join you. Since I know them, I'll put you in touch. Okay. Hilda Chepto says, been following Issa Amwari a bit in that industry. He's a Liverpool fan and a rally driver. Hilda, you had to go to Liverpool. She's a Liverpool fan.
He's in our soccer rally.
He's in your soccer rally group?
Yes.
He's the
admin. He's the chairman.
But you're Manchester United fans.
No, they're all, we have Arsenal. Uncle Ken.
What would you tell a young girl right now who's looking and saying, I want to be Tuta, I want to be a rally driver? What does she need to know?
I believe I get a lot of those questions. And in terms of where to start, Abdul Sidi is a good point. And he's on Facebook. Because he won't charge you to teach you what... He says, I learned it for free. So why should I, you know? So, but just be fearless. And of course, when we get all these negative comments, especially on social media, what are you doing in a male-dominated sport? And you hear people say, and then in Nyumbani, take care of
that, won the t-shirt.
Take care of your kids. Yeah, just ignore them. Ignore the noise. It's just noise.
Or use the noise to inspire yourself.
Yeah, but they can do it. We have the Women in Motorsport Kenya. The Africa representative is actually in the FIA Women in Motorsport Committee is Kenyan, Helen Shiri. So we are trying to make use of that, see how we can get our girls to, they have an international Girls on Track and all those sponsored programs. So they can follow us on Facebook and Instagram and maybe just talk to us and see. Once we wanted to get the programs started last year, but because of COVID, sort of everything shut down, but we've not given up. We'll still try and push them, try and push the Kianas to the international karting events and see how far they can go. If
apart from sponsorship, how else do you make money? Is there any other way that people make money in motorsport? It's only through
actually, what we say about motorsport is you spend money. You don't make money.
So it's a very expensive hobby.
Yeah, it's an expensive hobby.
Because you've won several awards, and you're saying that you've only made a bit of money in 2012.
Yes, it was a lot of money. It was 5,000 bob. So yeah, it was like now the sponsoring club basically decided to give a bit of cash to several.
Cash prizes.
Yeah, just the club, not the federation. So. That was Nakuru, and that was a good thing. Back then, they do that a lot and would motivate a lot of newcomers. Not because you've won a lot of money that you can put back in the car, because you can't put that back in the car. It's just a thank you, yeah. What was the question?
How else you can make money in motorsport?
We have a huge talent pool in Kenya, and we have navigators who navigate in Tanzania and in Uganda because they appreciate what generally we are the fastest really I think in the continent, but they appreciate that, and you find that more and more they're actually paying co-drivers to go and navigate them. We also have drivers here who at that level basically import co-drivers from Europe to
but then the drivers themselves have to make sure they have sponsorship.
They have sponsorship, yeah, and they pay that person. So it's not coming from anywhere.
So without the sponsors, there's no other way?
There's no other way. That's why we have over 80 cars that just lie around. Maybe the tires
and then it's a sport that's in the open, so you can't exactly charge fans to watch.
You can't charge fans. I know in Europe they do. In Uganda they actually do for their spectator stages, yeah, but they'll still get a crazy number of fans.
So
paying to
Kenyans,
watch.
we just don't.
Kenyans, the
Don't
one
pay up.
time I think the federation or the club tried to charge, there was a lot of
And
noise.
to charge means you already have to be in sort of an enclosed.
Yes, yes.
Like in the,
Right,
a
right
park
now
or
that's what
something.
we do. We rally on closed roads,
Mhm.
which for the fans sort of killed the sport. Because like you're talking about Kona Baridi, you drive
Yes.
there but when you're doing the ranches and the private farms, then it's very controlled. The alcohol and the things that make it more fun are sort of removed from the equation.
Gee, man.
But for the drivers, it became a safer event.
Mhm.
The accidents, we'd have several accidents where maybe a car rolls and hits a fan because they're standing
Oh,
on the
yeah.
wrong side.
Oops.
Or you have oncoming road, no more traffic. So that really changed. And I think drivers like the private farms, but for the fans, it has to be a balance, sort of, yeah.
Tell me about the awards you've won. The one you're carrying in the photo you gave me.
That was my first trophy. And before I got
Ah.
into rallying, I did what is called raid. And the 4x4 events, you get GPS coordinates and drive in the bundus and find your way from the start to the end. It was a fun event, but it's slow. So we wanted to get a bit fast. So that was my very first trophy that I won from the raid event. We did that for about a year. It was a meritorious award. I can't remember for what, but yeah, it was an award. In 2015, I think that was my first championship in the, like I said, there are classes and groups. So won the Division 3 championship for co-drivers. And then we were in an old Subaru. So we actually won something else that year. We worked with Isaju with cancer awareness.
Oh, Edda's Hope.
Edda's Hope, yes. So
I know them. I used to be a board member.
Yeah, I remember. So we won an award that year because of that awareness. It's called the Lochab Award, which was cash as well. Yeah, it was more cash. Yeah.
A whooping 5,000.
No, that was I think $1,000, so it wasn't too
Oh,
bad.
that's not bad.
Yeah. So in 2016, moved to the two-wheel drive category with Eric Bengi in a Ranex. Now that was faster than the Vitz. And won the two-wheel drive championship. Then in 2018, won Group N and already moved to Division 1 and won the Division 1 championship. And the same year, I won the Motorsport Personality of the Year in 2018. The same year, I was the chairman of the Autocross Commission, so it was a whole lot of
It was a busy year for
choosy
you.
mix going on, yes. Yeah, it was a good year. So
When you are preparing for an event, how do you prepare? Like physically and with the car?
we have to do what we call tests, just to find out if the car is fine, but also to get seat time with the driver and understand each other. There has to be some sort of chemistry in the car. If it's not there, then basically we'll be shouting and the person can't hear you. Or, yeah. So we do that.
Kudos to those who do it with their husband.
So we do a lot of those tests to figure out the car setup, if whatever, maybe the shocks are good, all pieces of the car, just to test if the car is fine, but also to get seat time and understand the notes, because each driver's notes are very different. They're unique to the driver. So that's why we do the test. Then hydration, keep drinking. We are seated in that hot car without an AC for all those kilometers in a hot day, so you lose a lot of fluids, yeah. So pre-event, we basically just keep hydrating, and then during the event. Then for co-driver, and I believe the driver as well, like mentally, you have to be like sharp.
Exercise, things
you have
like
to
that,
exercise,
things
yeah.
that help you.
Yeah. Plus also
focus.
build, if you've ever tried to change a puncture under pressure, that's when you realize your arms are not strong enough. So, yeah.
I could change it. I could change a tire until I got a 4-wheel drive.
Yeah,
That is too heavy.
it's very heavy, and you're timed in the competitive section. If you get a puncture there, you don't want to lose more than 2 or 3 minutes.
Minutes.
Yeah, so you basically have to.
Because
Because then the next car catches up with you, and you're in dust, and you can't move as fast as you want. So it's, yeah, at the end of the day, you need to be the fastest.
when is Tuta Mionki moving from being a navigator to being a driver, a co-driver to a driver?
Oof.
When is that going to happen?
In 2011, when we went to Abdul's academy, that was the plan. Then they start talking about the budgets. Then we start moving to the cheaper side of the car, because mostly the budgets are mostly it's the driver who either gets a sponsorship or funds it. Yeah. That dream is not dead. I hope to move. I want to start with autocross. It's, like I said, more affordable, and that's why we want to encourage more girls to start with autocross. Then it's a shorter weekend. It's like one day, because I think one of the biggest challenges in this sport is time. If the safari, for example, I leave home on Monday, I come back the next Monday. So that's a whole week out of work, and yeah, so I hope to do autocross, hivi karibuni. So.
And when will you do the rally itself? Would you consider getting a female navigator so you have an all-women's team? Yeah,
I would love to have a female navigator. In fact, in terms of sponsorship, we get more attention being in a male-dominated sport. That's what I was going to ask. Yes, so I don't know why all these corporates are losing out on that huge
an all-women's team in the safari rally.
Yes.
Yeah, I'd give you attention.
Yeah.
Nowadays, female sports journalists, we're taking over.
Yes.
Hilda, Aida, Mukami, Michelle, we are taking over. I will give women the focus.
Yes. That would be a huge, huge opportunity for anyone, any sponsor out there who's looking for that name. And being the WRC, it will be international attention as well, not just local.
Yeah. So we're actually wrapping up. I just want to remind people, 24th to 27th of June, that's when the WRC will come.
Yes.
But you have throughout the year, because there used to be the KCB rally throughout the year. Those are the 8 events you're talking about.
Yes.
Is it happening this year?
With the season has started off well with Nakuru in February, then the lockdown, then sports cancelled. So now we did the ARC, WRC. Hopefully we don't get into another lockdown, then the rest of the season can proceed. But just to mention, now that you mentioned KCB, I think without KCB, the sport would have completely died off after the WRC left, because they've kept it going and kept, they've sponsored the federation, and the clubs are able to host events. Otherwise would not be able to even pay the entry fee, because of course it's slightly cheaper because of KCB. So kudos to KCB.
Actually, without KCB, yeah, you're right, it would have died.
It would have died, yeah.
We even know it's the KCB rally.
Yes.
It's like it's become like a name, not even the
it's
title
KCB
sponsor,
rally,
you know.
Yeah.
So good on them. But thanks, Tuta. I've enjoyed this conversation. I've learned a thing or two. I'm not huge on cars. I drive German, but do I say?
Should try the Subs and the Evos.
The Subaru.
For speed.
I'm too old for a Subaru.
not a blue one. You can choose a different color.
There's a time I was behind a Subaru going to the office, and because it's so low, it was going where the bump sideways like this. So I actually took a video and laughed at them, because in my German machine, I was just going straight like this.
But Subaru drivers respect each other on the road. So.
No, I mean, it's a fast car. It's a fast car. And noisy.
And I think it became very popular because of rallying back then with the, remember, I think 555 Safari, Patrick and Jerry in a blue Sub. Yeah.
Yes.
So it became very popular.
When I was in my 20s, all my male friends, their first cars were Subarus. Yeah, but that was more for ego. But thank you so much. Thank you so much, Tuta.
Thank you.
And I think I'm going to have more rallying conversations, by the way, between now and at least the Worlds of the WRC, because we want Kenyans to turn up.
Yes.
Because the sponsors will also only come when they see a lot of crowds involved.
And there's a very beautiful track at Kasarani that has specifically been built for that. There's a lot of space at Kasarani for sports, and we didn't even know about that until they put up that track. It's a twin track, a very nice place to.
They are called Sports Kenya. I don't know if they're doing their work, but I'm not going into that today. But they should be exposing such facilities and letting Kenyans know that we actually have cool places to watch sports.
But
Yeah.
they've done a good job. The organizing team, I think, has put in a lot of effort to bring the event. And from what we saw, the ARC event last month was a dress rehearsal, and they did a great job with that. So I believe the WRC will be super.
Well, I wish you all the best.
Thank you.
in the
Thank you very
WRC.
much.
I wish you all the best.
Asante.
I want to see your name in lights.
Oh, yeah.
I want to see your name in lights. I want to see more women getting involved in the sport. And thank you for what you're doing
Thank
to try and
you.
encourage more women to come in. And thanks for coming here.
Asante sana. Thanks for having me. I'm very happy. Salams again to the guys.
Salams. I would like to say hello to my grandmother, my auntie, but thank you guys for watching every week. I sent through the airtime. I hope you got it. And then, next week we'll have another conversation about maybe a different sport, and then come back to rallying. By the way, I got calls. You have to have, when I have Phineas on here, what should I ask him?
Those questions about what the government is doing, to help the drivers.
And what they're doing.
But he was the ambassador. He went to all those countries to lobby.
It's great they got it. It's
yeah.
great they got it because the focus will be on motorsport.
Yeah.
And when you focus, the things that corporates can ignore, the fans can ignore.
Yeah.
So good on them. I mean, I won't be so harsh on them. But
No.
Good on them for bringing the World Safari Rally.
They should also take advantage of this then to push for.
I'm still waiting for FKF to bring us even a Junior World Cup. So yeah. This is like
Africa Cup of Nations.
Africa Cup of Nations. So thank you guys, and we'll see you again next week on Radull Live. Peace out.